So this is the second video in our series of question and answers, questions that I've taken from my channel on YouTube from people that have watched the videos. I'm trying to answer them in detail, and this is the second one in the series. It looks like it's going to be pretty popular. We may expand this in the future. I don't know. This is kind of a test balloon, but so far it's gone way better than I really thought it would in the very beginning. So welcome, this is our number 2 question and answer video, which seems to be relatively popular. I've been getting a lot of responses. So I wanted to take this time to answer. These are questions people have posted on YouTube. The idea being that instead of answering one person in the comment section, if it's on a video, it'll go out to many more people, and it can be a much more detailed explanation. Of course, I can show examples, pictures, videos, whatever. The first question, and this is one that I have heard this question so many times, I formulated a really impressive answer, and you'll probably think, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Well, you figure out if I do. Here's the question, and I've asked it of people in body shops, and they don't even know. I put my base coat on, primer, base coat, and now I want to put the clear on. How long do I let the base coat dry? Now, depending on what paint you're using, and they're all basically modern. I'm only going to deal with modern paint. Not many people are using lacquer or the old-fashioned paints anymore. I have asked many people. In fact, one of them is a tech rep at Gavin's, and he knows this stuff, and he's got very detailed answers that I know he knows what he's talking about. But he said it's always between 0 and an hour. That's the maximum, the best time to put that on, but not while it's wet. So now that's a variable. Because if I put a wet coat of color on, and this is an answer to Jim, I'm trying to be detailed here. And I know the video may get long. If it gets long, you know, we're trying to get details. So I'm trying to pass on what I've already learned for many years. What I have done, and rather than listen to people, and I'm sure there's other people on the internet that have opinions based on real life experience. My real life experience is this. I had to pick up many times where I'd have a problem with the part and I'd sand through the part. So I'd go back to the gun that had black or yellow or red and touch it up, and then I'd see, oh my God, it's getting dark out or something, and I just let it dry to where I thought it was dry. I'm thinking 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15, and put clear on top of it. And nothing bad happened. In fact, I've just done it recently. Now, the real answer here is if you're, and this is the part of it that gets scientific, if you work for DuPont, you want to stack the deck in your favor, that every single thing is perfect to the last degree. But if you're a backyard mechanic and you're painting a motorcycle, and it's just a little bit, 99% is probably good enough, 98%. My stuff is probably less than that, but it's plenty good for what I'm doing. Now, if I had a spray booth, temperature control conditions, $1,000 spray guns, and I had the money to go to DuPont school or 3M school or whatever, they'd probably tell me everything I'm doing is wrong. Except, maybe I'm not at 100%, but the stuff I have, I think most people would agree. Most people would come into my little humble bike collection, go out to the garage, walk around, touch the paint. They can't feel the paint lines, can't feel the stencils. So the answer, Jim, and the answer is it's a very detailed answer. Rather than being scientifically correct to where this would sound like it's coming out of a computer, I can assure you of this. If you paint something in a color base coat, and now assuming there's no compatibility issues, and that paint is dry to where you can just go like that and touch it. It's dry. I think it's ready for the clear. Also, I've done stuff that it's 10 years old. And I'll put clear, sand it, always sand it, try to get it a little so it's got a mechanical tooth. I think they both work, but I think the paint companies, they make it more complicated than it has to be because they want you to have that perfect paint job. Now, so maybe my stuff is a little cruder, and maybe I'm out painting in snow, painting in rain, painting in, oh, God knows, a hurricane or whatever. But that question has been asked so many times, I'm glad I got to answer it. I hope the answer didn't get too long or too convoluted or whatever. But that is a common thing people think. Now another thing, and just to spin off on that question. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, I have learned this in the last year I have firmed up my opinion in the last year. In the years that I painted things with lacquer and acrylic lacquer, and remember, I've been painting things since, you know, dinosaur kind of things. Probably over 50 years I've painted. I've never not had at least one compressor in my house. I've never not had multiple motorcycles that always needed to be painted because I'd be dropping them and whatever, customizing them. But the whole bottom line to everything is when you get technical advice from a company, they are going to get that, yes, paint when 72 degrees. Doesn't mean if you paint when it's 71, the paint won't dry. When it's colder, paint takes longer to dry. When it's hotter, it'll dry maybe a little too quick. You don't get that bond. So they make it just right to a razor edge. But there's a window that you can work in. And the window is, and I just did this the other day, I was painting, here, I'm going to show you the example. I was painting this part here. And I put it out in the sun to get it to dry because time was of the essence. The day was getting old. And what happened was, this is my new radar detector on a couple days ago video. So what had happened is, I had remembered, I had a memory of a time that especially if you paint a dark color or black, I had put something out in the sun thinking, oh, let's get this to dry, let's get this to dry. Went down to mix some more clear or whatever I was doing. Came out and there were bubbles on it. It looked like a fried egg. And I thought, oh man, that window, now I'm outside the window of where things work. So what I did this year, I've been trying because of a lot of situations, because we're running a bed and breakfast now and time is of the essence on a lot of things. I've been letting my paint dry out in the garage overnight in probably 20 to 40 degree temperature. Before I work on it, I bring it in and put it by a heating vent. And this is an old house, so the heat is always on. And I let it sit up by the heating vent. I've tried after an hour, this part here, still soft. About 4 hours, it's rock hard and ready to buff. But somewhere in between, there's that window. So my thought is always that if you have a window, it's good to know where, if I put it out in the sun, I make a bubble, and it's good to know here, something else bad will happen. But there's always a window. And it's not just exactly what the paint companies tell you, it's a wider window. And anybody tells you you can't paint when it's snowing out and it's cold, it's humid, you can, but you've got to adjust everything. And that's going to be the subject for a future video. I plan on taking the whole video, and I don't want to do it now. I want to answer, other people had some really good questions this week. And I wanted this to be something, because it's not only people with motorcycles, and my friends, a lot of them are modelers, paint. People want to know general information about paint. Like my friend Scott, who's painting a motorcycle, and he's having issues. And he asked me, please share the bad luck that I've had. So I'm going to take the opportunity later to answer a couple of Scott's questions, things that he's contributed. So, but to get the ball started today, that's the first question. It's a question I've heard over and over again. And I hope that information is useful. Now, at the end of everything, and I've told Scott this also, at the end of everything, there's always a way that I've used to my advantage over the years. Do a little test. Take a light bulb, take a piece of tin can, a tuna can, take something. Paint it. Put it aside. Paint another one. Put it aside. Paint another one. Now, right now, mix up your clear. Put some clear on that after 5 minutes. Wait an hour, put some clear on. Wait overnight, 2-3 days, put some clear on that. See if anything different happens. Maybe there is something scientific, but I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm a backyard mechanic. And I'm not dressed in a white coat and showing you all this fancy stuff. What I'm trying to do is things that have worked for me over many, many years. Try to pass that information on, and that's what this channel is about. And if you've watched my normal channel, normal videos, you know I try not to leave out any details, but these videos are going to allow me to explain things in even greater detail. Okay, so another question I got, a comment. You can look at all these comments on the comment section of my YouTube channel. Jeremy wanted to know if I could make him a copy of my windshield. Well, I used to make parts for people. I don't make them anymore. I'm sorry that I don't. I don't have the ability because I don't have the time to make custom parts for people's motorcycles. It's just not a practical thing. But you can always use the technology that I have if you can find a local guy that runs a custom car shop or something and tell him, look at what Wendy did. He put the little winglets on the windshield. He did this, he did that, and whatever you want. And farm out the job to him. People do that with especially custom cars, especially if you do bike shows. There's almost nobody. You go to a bike show, a real bike show, you go in it, there's a board like this with who did what. Yeah. Well, whenever I've had bikes in a bike show, there's no board. Everything is mine. It's funny that I'm saying it like I'm a big shot, but it's true. So here's the thing, Jeremy, and I put the information out on what worked for me, especially the shape, the size, the style. If you can get somebody locally to replicate that, and if they can't figure out how to do it, send me an email question and I'll try to answer it. I don't think it's out of the scope of anybody that has the ability to have basic tools and do basic things. I realize not everybody does, but it's not something like building a rocket to the moon either. And most of what I do, the styling of what I do, is based on my love of model airplanes, and I've styled a lot of model airplanes that have gone on to be very successful. And other people seem to like that style, so I kind of think, okay, I'm playing to the middle of the road here. Now I know some people have radical styles. I've had people send me in pictures. This is really funny. And Turbo Steve is one of them. How I should customize a bike. And it suits their standard. And I look at it and I go, yeah, that's pretty cool, but it's not me. See, I can only style things that I like. And I don't know if you like it too. A lot of people, and by the way, thank you to all the people that they send me in the things almost on a daily basis. You can look. I love your bike. I like the bike. I like the bike. And I appreciate every one of them. It motivates me to even do better. But Jeremy, that is a valid point. Is if you're not able to or you don't want to do custom work on your bike, find somebody locally that does this for a living. I don't know, in our area here there are several people with custom bike shops that do this work, and if necessary I would, just look on the internet for a windshield like this. I was thinking, yeah, that's a part that, if this were years ago, if this were and I was younger, I would have made a mold for the windshield and sold them and try to make some money, but not at 76 years old. So Jeremy, I hope that does answer your question and give you some thoughts for how to proceed with whatever it is you want to do with your MT-09. Now, just to make a point for anybody that's new to the channel, I do go back almost my whole life into modeling. These are all model planes I've designed, flown, and all of these videos are out on YouTube on my airplane channel. I also have an airplane channel, and they're all free, and you're welcome to look at them anytime, of course. But I've always had a joint love of motorcycling and modeling, and I've tried to be as good as I can at both. So here's a funny question, and I have heard this many times before. The fellow that submitted it, his name is Mike, and he said, I should work for Yamaha in their style department. And I have an answer for that. I wish Yamaha would give them my phone number. I wish they would call me up from Japan and say, Wendy, we have a job for you. And, we're going to pay you 1,000,000 yen or something. Make me an offer I can't refuse. So there's only one problem with that. Is the stuff that I do to the motorcycle, I do with other people's help. I do it with John Pothia's help, my wife Karen's help. Actually, Turbo Steve has given me some good ideas on things. Other people have contributed. So for me to just take full credit for it, I don't know. I don't know about that. But anyway, what I think I'll do is I'll just keep my phone right near me, just in case Yamaha calls later on today and says, that 1,000,000 yen check is in the mail. Actually, what I do for them, I'll make Yamaha a deal. If they give me another new MT-09, put one in my garage, I'll sketch up a paint job. I'll make them a windshield. But, that's very nice that you said that, Mike. But the reality is bike companies, now I have a friend, let me just share a story. I always think a video has to include a good story. John Cafaro was a head stylist in the Corvette department. If you go to the Corvette Museum, his picture is 7 feet high. He is an icon. He has told me a million times when we were styling model airplanes and styling the Ferrari bikes, he has told me how important badging is. Badging, badging, badging. And I know that's true. And even just moving the badging, you can make something look good, bad. So I'm in awe of the people that do that for a living. I'm sure Yamaha has those people. Now, the only problem is they are styling bikes for younger people, a younger generation of people. They like flat black things. They like a certain look. I don't know. I know what I like. And you can, yeah, it's on the backdrop of the TVs here. But it's always, when I'm doing this, it's with somebody else's help. I'm never doing it like I'm on an island all by myself. I always have people looking over my shoulder, trying to make it better. And I always like to feel you get a lot more done if you work as part of a team instead of a lone wolf. And special thanks to John Cafaro for all his help over the years with the Ferrari motorcycles I designed and made and modified, and the Ferrari airplanes. Both John Cafaro and Les Demet were instrumental in helping me. And as I've said before, I always do enjoy working as part of a team, and the results you figure out if you like. Okay, so here's a comment I really like, and I took it to heart. A fellow named Paul left me a little thing. He had watched a video, and he said I was thinking of putting, and I have the screening right over there on the work table. He said, that'll be cool. It'll make it look like a GTO. I never thought of it that way. That's something. I haven't decided how I'm going to do it, what material I'm going to use. I was going to make my own material with little holes in it. I bought this silver screening, but I am always happy when somebody, a perfect example, they give me an idea. Somebody will give me a thing and say, hey, look at that. That would work for me. Now, there's just endless amounts of stuff. I've got about 25 questions. I'm going to try to condense some of the ones that more than one person has asked. Now, in that vein, Steve, and I'm just going to cross them off as I go. Steve asked me about, he apparently liked the bike, left a nice comment. He said, the surround around the headlights, did you ever think of painting it silver? Actually, I did. John Poirier did. He did me a Photoshop. I didn't care for it. It was starting to look a little bit too much like a young person's bike. And it's easy to get right to the edge of a cliff and then put one too many parts on it. In model airplanes, we always had a thing. It's better, because model airplanes usually have a 5 or a 6 color paint job. It's better to have one color not enough than one color too many. Just one example of the things John Poirier has added to my ability to do paint work and design work and styling. And his skills with Photoshop have been invaluable. Okay, now here's a question that could take up a whole video. A fellow named Booza. Booza, I like your name anyway. That's cool. Are you like a Hayabusa or just a Booza? Anyway, I always appreciate comments like this because a lot of times it gives me an idea I didn't have yet. And Booza was saying he didn't care for the mirrors on the bike, and maybe they didn't work for him. See, here's the problem. This is what I wanted to mention. And I wanted to tell a quick little story, and this is a true story. When I bought the FCR, it had the mirrors like most sport bikes that you got to see this part of your shoulder. I had bought and painted and modified and changed, and I bet I had 10 sets of mirrors for that bike. I still have out in the garage. I have one shelf. I'll bet I have 30 or 40 mirrors. I never found mirrors that I really liked until I put them on the handlebars. It just never worked out for me. Now, because now I could actually see something behind me. And so the point is, you have to get, and people that like bar end mirrors, I'm sure there's a lot of people like bar. Joe Roselli has a great set of bar end mirrors. We put them on in my driveway, in fact. I ought to look for that video. But the point is, they've got to suit you. Now, if you're a bigger person, I'm really not that big. No muscles here anymore. So what happens is, I can see about 3/4 out of the mirrors of the MT-09. Every bike out there except the GS has had more than one set of mirrors on it. The GS is the only bike that you can sit on and see out both of the mirrors. You don't see yourself. You disappear. So I don't know about that. But here's a funny story, and if the videos get too long, too bad. This is a funny story. It used to be in New Jersey, and this will give you an idea of how I was when I was younger. So I'm 18, 20 years old, whatever. I've got a bike, but I know the bike. I can remember it. It was a '69 Suzuki Titan. And we used to, in New Jersey, it was the law you had to have mirrors. Now, at the time, I was using this bike basically as a drag bike. I had struts in the back, I had no shocks, had a little baby gas tank and everything. And I said, oh man, mirrors, my friends are going to think I'm crazy riding around. So I said, I had gone to the dentist and I saw his little mirror. And I said, do you have an old one of those that's scratched you can give me? Yeah, sure. Gives me a mirror. I drilled a hole in the handlebars and put some glue in there. And the mirror was this big. And when I went to inspection to inspect the bike, in Jersey, this used to be a funny, blow the horn, check the brake light, do this, do this. Sir, you don't have a mirror on here. Oh, wait, you do. And I remember how funny that was, but I think, how stupid was I when I was young? I'm not sure I got a lot smarter as I got older. That's a true story.
And I mean it. The GS is the only bike that you see 100% out of the mirrors. The MT-09, 80%. Maybe I'll look for wider mirrors in the future. But right now, it's not a high priority thing. But I never poo-poo an idea that I haven't tried yet.
This is one of the best questions, one of the best ones, from Turbo Steve. Actually, Turbo Steve is one of the people I really respect, his artistic look at things, and he's done a beautiful cafe bike. He's done several other things, that the turbo bike restorations. But Turbo Steve said something, and it opened the door to this question. When is a bike finished? He said, he looked at the bike, the last couple of videos. Now remember, our videos are not the next day. They take about a week to get processed and edited and everything. And so I'm always about a week behind. He said, the bike looks so good, you're done, finished, don't put another thing on, don't touch it, don't polish anything yet. And I know what he's thinking, because in model airplanes, it's the same thing. It's that one extra, and you think, oh, one less would have been a lot better. But I wanted to mention something that maybe a lot of people are not aware of. I like Evil Twins. Evil Twins is my idea. I didn't copy it from anybody. It's when you have a bike like my GS, and you want to have two of them. So what you do is you buy another parts bike, and you paint. In my case, I painted the tank, the side covers blue, and now I have one bike, I have one registration, one license plate, one insurance, but I have two bikes because in about an hour I can switch the blue parts over. Now I have a West Cooley bike. So, and I can do it with other bikes too. So this is what I wanted to have with the MT-09. I was trying to make everything I made parts for, I made more than one of, so I can play if I get bored, tired, or whatever. I don't know. But if you're building a bike and you think the day is going to come when that bike is physically done and you're done, never going to touch it again, that wouldn't work for me. What works for me is that it's never ending. It's a journey you go on where you buy a motorcycle, you change things. My R1 is an example. I bought it as a total sport bike. I wanted to ride it on a track. I wanted to burn up track day tires. And after I rode it for a while, I said, wow, this bike is a lot of fun to ride on the street. Wow, I just make it a little more comfortable. I made handlebar risers. I made 6. I have 6 out in the garage. Seats, various thicknesses and with little back pads. I've made endless little changes to the bike, but anytime I ride it, I come home and I think, what's the next thing I want to do to this? I'm never done. And that's, if you think about things that way, I think of it as a model railroad. And a lot of my friends have model railroads. And you build a model railroad, but it's never done. The day never comes. You're always changing something, adding something, making it bigger, longer, or I don't know how else to describe it in my frame of reference, but a bike is an ongoing thing, and most of my, not most, all of them, I don't sell them. I buy them, and the next time I get, 10 years later I buy another one, 10 years later I buy another one, but I never sell the old ones. So I just keep changing them and make, but at this point in my life, I have one bike from every 10-year period that I've been involved in motorcycling. And to me, that's very rewarding and fun. I can ride a 70s bike, come home and jump on a brand new bike with ABS and traction control, and to be honest, I love them all.
And for people who don't understand the value of an Evil Twin, and to me, it's a tremendous thing because you have a bike that runs good, you have a bike that shifts right, you have a bike that doesn't wobble or shake, or that you're uncomfortable, you feel safe riding it. And so when you change the body work on it, it's like a beautiful woman changing her dress. It's just changes the whole look, the whole feel. And in a lot of cases, I've had the feeling that, holy mackerel, I'm riding around and I just got myself a brand new. Now here's a question from Paul, and this is really a good one. Paul, I appreciate your comments, by the way, that he worked with carbon fiber and he knows it's hard to explain to people. Well, let me explain how this worked out for me. In the world of model airplanes, there was a time when nobody in the world had carbon fiber. We never even heard of it. Well, we're going back to the 70s, maybe the 80s, I don't know. And all of a sudden, one day, we went to the national championships and somebody had a carbon fiber something. And I looked at it, that's pretty cool. Now, as time went by, more and more people had carbon fiber this, that, the other thing, mainly propellers. I eventually, at that point in time, I wanted to make these parts, and I teamed up with Dave Midgley, who at the end of I had a model airplane business for 25 years that I sold. And during that time, I made carbon fiber parts, propellers, exhaust pipes for 2 strokes, all out of carbon fiber. And all of the learning I did, and I think most of the things, Dave Midgley was the one that helped me figure most of it out. All of the things we did, nobody would tell you anything. There wasn't even a YouTube back then, I don't think. And you couldn't just call companies up. They'd say, oh, it's proprietary information. Oh, sorry, it's proprietary. Or if you went to buy the high temperature resin, you had to buy a $2,000 bucket of it. They were not catering to people with small uses. So now we're in the modern world, totally different. Carbon fiber has a different meaning than it did back then. Back then, carbon fiber was a functional part of an airplane or a motorcycle. That part was real carbon fiber. Now you have parts, and I've even made some, that are laminated with carbon fiber. They're made with different materials. Anybody can go out on the internet and for under $100 you can be making carbon fiber parts. The West System resin, super friendly if you want to put a nice finish on anything. I've just done some. Well, I just did on this part. This little part here is made from I showed how to make that on one of the videos. So the carbon fiber, what I did is I took the highest of the high-tech stuff that I made, like propellers that you make with high strength resin, EPON, and some of the things that you make with, like an exhaust system has to be made with high temperature resin, the R1 exhaust, the GS exhaust. I boiled it down to where I think an average person, and I mean somebody that's never even done it before, if you have the right materials, and maybe $100, you can be making your own carbon fiber material. And once you make it yourself, you can make it thicker and thicker for parts that have a structure, and very thin if you just want a cosmetic part, like I have on the MT-09, the side pieces, the little covers in the back, the pieces that hold the windshield. It's all made, and it's not difficult to do, and all that information is on my channel. And the way you find it is you go to YouTube, and I put this on the first video, YouTube. Now you're in the section where you can do a search, and you put quotation marks, Windy Ertnowski, quotation marks. My name in quotation marks brings you to the channel, and then you put in carbon fiber, and it will go right down. There's probably 500 videos there. But anyway, Paul, again, I appreciate that was such a nice comment. And R1 guy, I hope I'm not saying this wrong. He kind of stole my thing. I'm FZR guy, by the way. He's R1 GUI. Oh no, it's Riggy. Maybe he's not even an R. Maybe he likes Hondas. But Riggy, our R1 guy, he sent a nice comment. He likes the videos, enjoyed them. And to be honest, I enjoy doing them. And I enjoy sharing what I know. Now what I know, I can't make a B-1 bomber. But for what we're doing in the world of motorcycles, most of the information I have is appropriate. And here's the good news. When I don't know something, and it's like stump the professor or something, I am very happy to say, I'm sorry, I don't know. And I'm just going to come up with that question right now. Here's the question, and this is really, I wrote a very detailed letter, I meant more than one, in fact, to this gentleman. He was asking me, and let me just get it. His handle was Alpha Kilo, I guess that's what it means. He asked me a question I should know, but I don't. Let me cross his name off the list. So Alpha Kilo, he took maybe it's an MT-09. He took the clutch apart and he said,
the plates have a sharp side and a rounded side. How do you put them back? I didn't know. I went to YouTube. Up comes videos, but I didn't see the exact one I thought would show that. So I watched a few of them to try to gain some knowledge, and I thought, and I sent him an answer that may be the way to find it, but I didn't see a video out there exactly answering that question in exactly those words. But the idea of when you take a clutch apart, and this is a Luciano thing that he showed me, Kenny Augustine showed me many years, because when we drag race, you take the clutch out of the bike almost every week. So what was happening is you take the springs out, and this is really pretty simple, and take the whole, as you take them out, lay them. Now in the old days you would take the fiber plates and just keep them in that order, and the metal plates, you take some rough sandpaper, roughen them up a little bit, and you get 10 more runs out of it. But you don't do that anymore. People with modern sport bike, you're not going to do that with a modern sport bike, I don't think anyway. You buy a clutch, a stack, and you can buy on that, because I bought it for the GS, you can buy the individual parts, or you can buy a stack from a company. And either way, usually there's instructions in there how to do it. So if I have to do a clutch, I'll make sure I do it. And I know I have one out there for a GS clutch, but that's not the same thing. I'll make sure I show that you take it out in this order and put it back in exactly the same order. And sometimes up against the basket, there's a little springy thing. Sometimes the plates, if you put them in backwards, the clutch drags. Luciano, when he had the first Ducati, he had clutch issues. He bought a Barnett clutch. He had some other thing happen, and everybody had we went to a meetup, and everybody said, oh, you do that, don't do this, don't do that. But you know what? I don't have a Ducati, so I don't know. But if I did, I'd want to research it out before I spent a couple $100 for a clutch.
And when Glenn had his first Ducati and we worked on it in my garage, I remember how many times he went to YouTube to find out some information, and he was the one taught me how to search these things out on YouTube. Thank you, Glenn.
Okay, so here's a question, and I've answered this already on, I think, on a couple days ago video, but I'll answer it again. And the fellow's name is SM. I don't want to use anybody's last name, but SM. He made a very good point that I took to heart. He said I took that Yoshimura badge off when I polished the muffler. An old Yoshimura muffler. I did not know people collect the badges, and I apologize if that was some collector item that I could have either given somebody, or if you're really groveling for dollars, you could sell it on eBay. Turbo Steve might have been able to use it. But I did not realize people collect that kind of stuff. Now, I live in an antique house, and I have antique bikes, but I did not realize it. And I addressed that on a previous video, so I don't want to go on and on, but that's something to always think about when you have an old RD part or an old GS part. There's somebody maybe that really could use that part. Even if you don't want to sell it, you could give it to them. That's a good point, and that had made me think before I throw away any of my older stuff. And I just saw it just yesterday. Turbo Steve was here with a 40-year-old tire he sold some guy in Pennsylvania. You figure it out.
And I think the one passion we all share, we all want to keep these older bikes or custom bikes, keep them alive and running, keep the parts available, and keep the price that the people that have these things don't become hoarders and then jack up the price. Another, and this is in conjunction with the first question I answered today, is a fellow named Craig. And Craig, thank you for the question. How long you wait for the base coat to dry, and do you sand it? Well, this is what will happen if you're not careful. If you paint something white and you sand it with 2000 grit or something, sometimes you get away with it. Rougher grit, you can get away with up to 400, say. But you take silver and sand it, when you put the clear on, those scratches are still going to be there. Almost always. Some metallics, worse than others, but I would never, if it's a metallic color, put the metallic color down, put the clear on top, and then sand it clear. That's a real quick answer. And now, I have one little trick I'm going to kind of end the video with. This is a trick that I found, and maybe somebody out there, you guys can help me. An MT-09, when you ride it on a salty road, this is a salt question. And these roads around here are always salty because it's still snowing. We're still at that time of the year. What happens? The fender, let me get a fender here. Hold on. You can tell I think these things out ahead of time, right?
I have our spare evil twin fender. What should happen if you're going to ride in the salt, and I thought about doing this, is to put a little mud flap on here during the time of the year that the salt is out and keep that salt from going up on my exhaust pipes. And I may make this. I may make it out of carbon fiber, make it all cool looking or something. I don't know yet. But here's the thing, the reason I said this, and I thought this would be a great way to end the video. I really think. I have tried to clean that salt off. I've tried Windex, water, soapy water, everything. It always leaves a residue of, and it's only an area about the size of 4 postage stamps where that salt is constantly going up there. And then I found what I thought was a good solution. I cleaned it, dried it with compressed air, and took a permanent Sharpie marker. And at the end of a total cleanup, which I do every time I ride the bike, I just, wherever the salt was, I went like this with the Sharpie marker, and it looked like a brand new radiator. And that, one of my little custom tips, especially if you go to a bike show and you have little dents in the paint, Sharpie marker is a good little tool. Probably useful around hand grips and switches, and who knows? But anyway, because I like to ride all year long, and that's a good tip. Now, I want to end the whole video. I want to be real, unless I miss somebody. Oh, I missed Stefan. Stefan, I'm so sorry. He asked me why I don't have tank pads on the MT-09. Well, I really don't need them. I haven't been sliding off the bike, but on my R1 I had them, and I had them on the FZR. And I don't know if in the future I'll have them. And those are those toothy pads that they, I don't know what the right word is. They hold your knees when you're hanging off the bike. For some reason, the MT-09, I'm kind of... But now that I have... See, what's going to happen with this, instead of the tank bag, I'm going to be able to get my weight further forward on that. Maybe get a little more aggressive about riding it. Although I'm having fun right now, so there's really no point. That's the bottom line with this. And what I did with the tank pads, when I took them off the FCR, I have them hanging on the wall over there in case I want to use them again. You can just put some of that contact glue on them and use them again. But so far I haven't found a need to do it, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it in the future. And what happens, this is the thing, when people send me ideas, sometimes I think, ooh, maybe that's the next thing I should do. See, I've been trying to think of some way I could customize the side of the tank, but so far I like it the best just the way it is. But anyway, thank you to everybody. I think I've answered everybody. I think there were 14 questions. I don't even know. But I'm going to keep a list of anybody that sends questions from now until the next cutoff time before we do another one of these videos. The videos are supposed to be fun, informative, and to some people short. Well, that I don't know about. And they're supposed to be that we pass on some information. And usually I find when you pass on information to somebody, they tend to pass on good information to you, and it's a win-win. So I'll end the video, say thank you to everybody that's sending comments, and thank you for watching. And remember, we do try to post something every day, but we're always about a week or so behind. So thanks again for watching.
Now, in making this video, I always wanted to remind everybody about something that I feel is truly important and sometimes overlooked. That the whole idea of riding motorcycles, the fun of riding motorcycles, is almost all the interaction you have with your friends who have similar interests. And in my case, I'm very lucky. I hope because you're watching this video and you haven't deleted it yet, maybe you're one of the people that shares that passion with me, that no matter what bike you ride and no matter how you ride it, if you're a track day guy or you like to just cruise around on a Gold Wing, the point is with motorcycling, what's so wonderful about it is you can have such a diversity of things, and you can still go to a meetup and check out everybody else's stuff and, you know, appreciate the fact that not everybody wants to ride sport bikes, not everybody wants to spend a lot of money, not everybody wants to have a stock bike, and for sure, not everybody wants to do what I do, is customize bikes and make parts and lay on the ground polishing them for half of your life. But the good news is, and it's such good news I have to emphasize it over and over again, is there's always room for everybody. There's room to appreciate what other people do. There's room to appreciate people that are in a different world, skill-wise or financially, or if they're Jay Leno, or if they're just like I'm doing in my garage, groveling along to try to keep some 40-year-old bikes running. That no matter what, and no matter what your skill level is, and no matter how you approach it, in the end, at the end of the day, it's almost always the friends you have that make this a wonderful, wonderful hobby and a camaraderie that I have been involved in basically for all my life. And my hope is that by sharing what I know on YouTube, I've made your world of motorcycling just a little more enjoyable too. And maybe we'll meet up at Perry's or at one of the meetups at the market, and we'll enjoy the conversation. And if you're riding a totally different bike, or you don't think restoring bikes is worth the time, or you don't want to make custom parts, or you don't want to go to the track, or you do want to go to the track, it doesn't matter. And that's such an important part. And Joe Roselli gets the full credit for this. We were talking about different varieties of bikes and different ways to ride them. And he said, you know what the bottom line is? You ride the bike that you love. And Joe, that has changed my life. My whole way of thinking about it changed when you said that. Such an important concept. Ride the bike you like, the bike you want, and of all things, the bike you love. So I do try to share some of this. I try to post up something every day, and I truly hope this video has been enjoyable for you to watch. And thanks for watching.